if I'm in, the sport fisher and you're in the rowboat, I don't care how hard you row and how hard you work and how smart you are, you're never going faster than me because I'm in the right vehicle. And that's where so many people, they get in these career paths and they get stuck in this routine of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And they get really good at it. And yet it doesn't really pay off. And you and me, like as we're in multifamily, we buy properties from people that are running these things horribly. They're nowhere near the best in the world at running these properties, and they're still making money, and they're still turning a profit. So multifamily, you don't have to be that good to make money. And I was like, I like that. I like the scale of it. You're leveraging debt. You can leverage other people's money to do it. I mean, it checked all the boxes of scalability.
You're listening to the Guerrilla State Investing Podcast. We're not here to bruise your bananas with guru sales pitches, overrated fluff, or any other kind of monkey business. We simply provide the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate.
All right, today's guest is Jennings Smith out of Charleston, South Carolina. Jennings is with Live Oak Capital. He's got about 1,000 assets under management with roughly 60 million. And then his main focus lately, though, has been his My First Million and Multifamily Facebook group, which has exploded in the last couple of years. Got about 23,000 members on it. I personally am a member of the Deal Room, which is what would you say, a higher level breakout for the more serious investors of the My First Million Multifamily. In addition to that, he's got the My First Million in crypto. He's definitely a mentor of mine. He does a lot of business with his cousin Yeadon, and these guys are definitely rocking and rolling right now. Jennings, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
Thanks, Ramsey. Appreciate you having me on. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man. If you do me a favor and just kind of elaborate on that intro that I gave you. I know I hit the wave tops, but how long ago did you start investing in real estate or just investing in general, and how'd you get to where you're at today?
For sure. About 7 years ago, I started to buy my first real estate. It really wasn't even real estate. It was a mobile home. I bought a $5,000 double wide that had no HVAC, and it was repossessed by the park. But I had begun building relationships with the park owner, and she said, "Hey, if you want this, we can sell it to you for $5,000, and we're happy to do it so we can get our lot rent." And so I fixed it up and sold it owner finance to someone who, after about 2 or 3 months, quit paying me, and I had to evict them. The dogs had just destroyed the whole place. I had to remodel it again, and I think I sold it and broke even on it, got my money back, and I about quit right there. I was like, this is just a lot of work. But I pressed on. I bought another trailer for $7,000 that I ended up renting for $700 a month, and just kept moving on that way. And then I bought 2 rental homes, and I had these grand plans of 1,000 rental homes, all the passive income off of 1,000 rental homes. But when I spoke with some people who actually knew what they were doing, like bankers and other real estate guys, they said, you don't want 1,000 trailers. You don't want 1,000 single family homes. If you really want to scale, you got to go commercial. You got to go strip malls or multifamily, or maybe even mobile home parks or self-storage, but you don't want to try and do it through individual single family homes. So that kind of put me on a different path to studying multifamily. And I was working full time, of course, in construction at the same time. And it took me a couple more years to really close my first deal. And then 2019 was really pivotal for me. I focused super hard, and we closed about 200 units. And that gave me the confidence to fully exit construction, go into multifamily full time, and really haven't looked back, So now we're over 1,000 units, and some stuff is stabilized, some stuff is refinanced. We've sold some stuff. And I'm able to be a full-time real estate investor, and I really like it a lot. So
pretty humble beginnings, starting out with a couple trailer park, or not even trailer parks, just trailers, right?
It's trailers. That's all I had was about 5K. I'm in my early 30, or I was in my early 30s, and I didn't have $30,000 for down payment. My construction company was making enough to make a living, but the recession. I mean, I was remodeling bathrooms and kitchens, installing replacement windows. I wasn't making serious money. You know.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've run into is because I'm a pretty handy guy myself, and being handy is almost a curse sometimes because if you are handy, your go-to is to do it yourself. Right. But it sounded like whenever you
Absolutely.
had that conversation with people who had been doing it for a while, they're like, you need economy of scale, and economy of scale can't be felt on the individual do it yourself level, right? So what was it? What was that first deal, that first multifamily deal that you bought? How many units was it? And did you do it yourself? Did you have to partner with people?
Yeah. Um, this was one of my favorite, maybe my favorite deal, because it's the first deal that you do. It kind of cements success, I think, because I see a lot of people that they say they want to get into multifamily, they say they want to be an investor, but they don't have what it takes. And there are other people that do have what it takes, but once they close a deal, you know who has what it takes, and now they can close multiple deals. If you close one, you can close 100, you can close 1,000, close 10,000, and but there's just a massive demographic of people that will never even close one.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this show and you've already closed a deal or two, you can close as many as you want. I think you just got to understand that if you're in a better vehicle or you're doing the right things, you already have the winning mentality to make that happen. So the it was a 12 unit. It was 5 hours away, so that was a challenge, right? I always thought I needed something right in my own hometown.
Yeah.
I live in Charleston, so it's kind of an expensive market. There really wasn't anything that I thought made sense. And but I found this deal up in Williamston, North Carolina, which is a town about 5,000 people, and it was $240,000 for 12 units. So pretty cheap, 20,000 a door. And stuff was a little cheaper. This was about 2.5 years ago, but still it wasn't that cheap. And I thought, man, this place is probably a wreck. And it was listed on the MLS publicly. Um, got a hold of the broker. He set up a meeting for me. I drove up there and met the manager, and it was actually in decent condition. It was older, but it was full. It was a bunch of people that had lived there a long time, so good tenant base and fairly clean. And the rents were just really cheap. I mean, it was like $415 for a one bedroom per month, and no utility fee. And the water in this town was very expensive. It was like $80 a month per unit for one bedroom. So very expensive water. Um, so I thought, well, look, if I just charge them for the water, I can make this deal work, because it was losing money. The way that they had it, that's why they were selling it cheap, because they were losing money. They had a big portfolio. They weren't really paying attention to it. They didn't care. And so, the seller owner financed me as long as I put down 30%. That was another really cool thing. So I didn't have to deal with a bank. Even though it was a huge loan, I just didn't have to jump through that hurdle of getting a loan. But I still had to come up with the down payment plus about 20 grand for a little bit of repairs. So I needed about $90,000. But I had been studying this stuff, so I put together a little JV agreement, and I pitched an investor on it and said, listen, if we do X, Y, and Z, we can make this thing cash flow very quickly. I will give you 40% of the equity of this deal, and I'll pay you 40% of the cash flow quarterly. Within 4 to 8 months, we should be able to start paying, distributions. And he looked through everything and he went for it. And so we ended up. So now I got the down payment. Now I got the lenders approved me, right? Because it's the seller. I didn't have to
Yeah.
do any.
Yeah.
And my credit was fine. It was like 620, 650. Like, it wasn't great because I was a builder and I had just credit lines out here and there, and but it wasn't like 800 credit score, and I definitely hadn't closed anything substantial yet. So we closed the deal. We got a new manager in place. We implemented the plan. We raised rents by like $30, and we got this utility bill back going, and it was cash flowing. And so we started paying distributions. And about a year and a half later, now I had closed a lot of other multifamily deals. Um, we got some unsolicited offers. Then I decided to list it for sale, and I ended up selling it for I think 410 or 415, and I had paid 240, and I put about 20 into it. So we paid off the owner, and the investor got 40% of the profits plus all his money back. Plus he'd been paid quarterly. I mean, he made like 50 something percent IRR on that deal.
Jesus.
So he was thrilled. And I walked away with, I think, we made maybe 150. So yeah, I mean, I walked away with like $80,000. I was like, wow, that's as much as I made.
Game changer. Yeah.
You know,
That was in
so
2019.
yeah, we bought it like right in the beginning of 2019, and then sold it in 2020.
So had COVID already hit when you sold it?
Um, no, COVID hadn't hit.
Yeah, nice, man. Well, I
So
guess I guess I bet if you held onto that property, because like the market's been crazy lately, you would have. I say everybody who bought pre-COVID went through some tough times, but those tough times are really paying off now because the market's just insane, right? Something no one could have predicted. And
well, yeah,
go
and the
ahead.
guy that bought it for me, he now he's got his it running well, and he's gonna make money on it too. That's the cool thing about real estate is like I made money on it, but in a few more years he'll probably be able to sell that for 600,000 or more. I mean, I don't know what he'll sell it for, but
Yeah, I know that you put out a post in your My First Million in Multifamily the other day, talked about like your path to success. You talked about time and goals, where everybody kind of thinks it's a straight line from how much time you put into something to achieving your goals, but it ends up looking a lot more like hockey stick growth, where you see nothing, 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 nothing for a really long time, and then eventually something pops, you find the formula, and your growth just skyrockets. Was that kind of that pivotal moment for you when you figured out, wait a minute, I can do, my formula is I find the deal, I find an investor, I connect the two together and kind of run it, and then boom, like you said, you closed a lot of multifamily after that. Was that kind of that pivotal moment you were talking about?
it was because, and that's why, when I'm telling you the story, or I'm trying to make a video for Facebook or whatever, we talk about you found the deal, you closed the deal, you did the plan, you sold it, you made the money. We don't talk about 2 years beating my head against the wall, looking on the MLS, talking to investors, putting together investment memorandums, pitching them on deals that never came together because of financing, or because it just wasn't a good enough deal, or I wasn't confident enough, or whatever multiple reasons. Like, we don't talk about that because it's not fun and it's not sexy.
Not
It's not
sexy,
exciting.
yeah.
But that's the way that this stuff happens, right? You go along doing the work for a really long time, and then boom, all of a sudden something starts to happen, and then it can snowball when preparation meets opportunity.
Mm.
But so much of the time, I say this where people are willing to trade time for money because they get the money pretty much right after they trade the time, right? You work 40 hours, you get a few $1,000 or $1,000, whatever you make a week, versus something like this. You may have to work 3 months, 6 months, 1, 2 years before you see the payoff. And a lot of people give up, right? They're just not willing to stick with it. And it doesn't have to take 2 years. You got to remember, I was working a full-time job, and had a lot on my plate, and I really didn't have a mentor. And so I think I could have sped that up if I had like shortcut by connecting with the right people.
Yeah, and what you talked about at the beginning, you wanted to have 1,000 single family units or whatever, 1,000 rentals. I call that breadcrumb trail, and a lot of guys in the military do this, where they become accidental landlords. They move to a place, they buy a house, they live in it, then they get transferred to another spot, and they all of a sudden I'm a landlord because they didn't want to sell a house, and they get a little bit of cash flow, and now their formula is I'm going to buy a house every place that I move, and then I'll look back in 10 years and I'll have 4 or 5 cash flowing properties, and they can retire and kind of step into that with some sort of income. And I think I've heard you talk one time, because for those of you guys listening, Jennings and Yin are great storytellers. It's how they caught me. They just I got two rules of storytelling: never let the truth get in the way of a good story, and no one likes a story in which the teller is the hero. And these guys always have. I don't know how much truth there is to it. I'm sure there's a lot of truth, but I don't mind if somebody elaborates on a story to make it good. I just like stories, and you guys always tell good stories. But one of the ones you talked about was borrowed confidence. And that one resonated with me because like my wife will tell me that I'm fearless, right? She's like, you always come with this stuff and you just dive right in. It's not true. I do a lot of research. I do a lot, like I think about something for a long time and don't tell anybody. But then once I see somebody who looks like me, is roughly my age, and is doing something I want to do, I'm like, man, if that dude can do it, I can do it too. And I borrow that confidence from them. And what actually got me to get into your deal room was that story whenever you're talking about how you were like, I don't know, you were around a couple of mentors and seeing that these are just human beings too, doing what I want to do. And I can literally borrow their confidence directly from them because I'm in the same room as them. So I joined your deal room because, it was kind of like the higher level, more serious investors. And being in there, the conversations that people, like you said, what we talk about in front of other people that are, we don't want to discourage them from getting started by talking about, man, it might take 2 years before you close your first deal. That might discourage them. We don't want to discourage them, but that's the stuff I really do like talking about, because it's the truth, man. Like when you get started, before you actually see progress, like real progress, it might not be a couple years. I usually tell people 6 to 8 months from the day you say I'm serious about large multifamily apartment complexes until you're involved in your first deal, not sponsoring, not running it, but involved in it, because it doesn't happen overnight. And it's not something you can just quit your day job and jump right into, because you have to sustain lifestyle at some level, right? And you're not going to make money for a couple years. But that borrowed confidence, why don't you talk about that a little bit and kind of, if you wouldn't mind revisiting that story for my listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see it in past humanity where I mean, you've heard of the 4 minute mile. Probably your listeners have heard of that. Roger Bannister wanted to break the 4 minute mile, and before that, everyone said it was impossible. Human beings couldn't run that fast, and yet when he trained and he broke that, everybody started breaking that. And now it's people can run a marathon on 4 minute miles. It's insane, and it's all in our brains and our heads. And yeah, I was at a conference. I had closed a 12-unit deal, the 12-unit deal, and I saw a guy. He was 2 years, 3 years younger than me. Had 1,500 doors at the time, I think, and I just was electrified, right? Because it's like, hey, he's bright, he's driven, he works hard, but so am I, right? I can do that, and if he can do it, I can do it. And understanding the methodologies that he did these things with how to scale, how to raise money, and you stop thinking in such a linear fashion of, I've got to save up $30,000 and I've got to buy a trailer or a single family home, and then I've got to refinance it and use the 30,000 to buy another one, and in 40 years I can have 10 homes or 15 homes, right? When you think linearly like that, it's impossible, or it's just going to take a really long time.
Yeah.
And what I teach is more for people that want to do this as a lifestyle, right? It's not for the accidental landlord that wants to have a couple rental homes. This is for people that are trying to make, 10, 20, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate. That's kind of what my training revolves around, and that's the goals that I'm going for. So, but yes, seeing him do that, it was like a light bulb went off. And Yaden and I were at this conference together. I dragged him. He hadn't bought any rental property at all at that point. And we got home, and within 3 months had closed a 63-unit apartment that was $5 million. We raised $1.2 million for the closing. And up to that point, the most I had ever raised was 90 grand for that 12-unit.
Yeah.
And so it was like a life-changing deal. And we kept kind of going down that path, but it started with hanging out with the right people. And the same thing happened with my first million. I started my first million Facebook group just sort of as like a way to connect with other people, get deal flow, get people to invest with me. And very quickly it was like that got saturated, right? I didn't need any more money. I had enough capital coming in for the deals that I had. And then I also had enough deals. Like I only wanted to close so many deals. I wanted to do it safely, consistently. And I got overwhelmed with people trying to, hey, will you underwrite this? Is this a deal? Is this a deal? And they have no clue what they're doing. And I'm not a professional underwriter. I'm not going to sit there for hours a day seeing that you don't have a deal, right?
Yeah, that's what the majority of them are too.
Exactly. And so, but I was connected in a high level mastermind that is, fairly large investment to be in. And this guy had built education courses, and he showed me what I had as far as the asset that I had built, the trust that I had built, the value I brought. And he showed me how to do the deal room and how to build a education product and actually help people to do this themselves, right? I can't sit there for 8 hours and explain multifamily. But if you're serious and you want to, invest a little bit of money, boom, I can teach you all this stuff. You can go through it at your own pace. And then when you do have something like, yeah, maybe we can partner, or I can connect you somebody in the deal room that can partner with you and you can push forward. And that way I'm expanding my reach. I'm helping more people. And we all know the more people that you help, the more money you're going to make, the more resources you're going to make, the more valuable you are to everybody. And so, but I didn't know that I had that until I got around the right person who said, Jennings, you have an asset here. You can do this and you can help more people. You can make money with it. And that was another level of borrowed belief that I had. So it's being around big thinkers and different thinkers. I pay a lot of money and I invest a lot of time and energy into getting around those people, because that is, I think, the biggest key, more so than mindset or books or podcasts, is getting these mentors and specific people in your life that can speak into scenarios that you're going in through. And I mean, those decisions can change the whole trajectory of your whole life. So you got to get around those right people.
And there's a couple of different analogies I want to throw out, because one of them is definitely not being able to see the forest because of the trees, right? And if you're constantly underwriting and like on the operations side of the business, which you need, I think you have to go through that. You have to go through that so you can speak to it, like you said, speak to scenarios people are in and kind of provide guidance. So the people you're talking about, like that you can borrow their confidence, have been through a lot of that and now are being able to see your business from a macro standpoint. Say, hey, look, you're not paying attention to this 5,000 followers that you have over here, or whatever it was at the time. You can leverage this, right? You have a following of people who trust you. And I imagine what the deal room, creating the deal room, because it's, for those who don't know, it's a subscription base. You have to pay to be in there, but it kind of ups the ante. It felt to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a filtration process from the people who are looky-loos to the people who are actually in it. And now you can distill down from 23,000 to 350 people who are actually action takers, right? Who have a financial commitment. They're serious about it. They're not just having analysis paralysis. I mean, I'm sure there's some of that there too, but there's definitely in the deal room itself. I see it. It is a deal room. There are people who are posting, hey, I've got this deal under contract. I just need some polishing for the underwriting. It's not, hey, here's a LoopNet. Can someone tell me how to buy it? Right? Because I get that a lot too. People send me stuff on LoopNet and I'm like, dude, I don't have time to go through LoopNet listings. It needs to be, if it's not under contract, right? Or you're not the only person the seller is talking to, I can't give you the bandwidth. Like, I just don't have it. I got to focus on things that have leverage, right? Or have actual forward motion on them. So I imagine you see that quite a bit too. And the deal room filters those people out. Is that kind of on the right lines of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, human beings are always going to take the path of least resistance, right? That's why we're fat. That's why we eat Doritos and cheeseburgers. That's why we sleep in. That's why we drink too much. That's why we're poor for some of us, is because we take the path of least resistance. And that's fine, right? That's human nature. But when you understand, hey, this is who I am. In my natural state, I am, I'm weak. And so when you put external pressure on yourself and put guidelines and put habits in place and accountability around that, that's when the magic happens. And yes, I was able to get a little bit of success on my own, but when I brought Yaden into the mix, it brought us a layer of external accountability, right? Because now I have a partner. I don't want to let him down. He doesn't want to let me down. And we're feeding off that. Then we go to this conference it's $5,000 for a weekend to listen to this guy speak, plus flights and hotels and everything else. And we didn't have money like that to blow. We had the money, but barely. And so when you do that, it's like, hey, I'm going to make the most out of this information. I'm serious. And everybody else in this room is pretty serious. And so when I came back, we were actively hunting, actively looking, actively raising money and putting into practice these things. So yeah, it's like when I was getting into this, just like you, as you start to do things, people want to communicate with you. And I thought, man, everybody's going to be like me. Everybody's going to take action. Everybody's going to be committed. And so I would spend tons of time and effort interacting with people, and they would never do anything, right? They just wanted to talk. They just wanted to bounce stuff off of you and on and on. And it got so frustrating. And I'm like, you know what? Because I do like to help people. I really do. And to see people winning is very fulfilling. But it's also very frustrating when you pour time, effort, and resources into somebody and they don't make anything happen for themselves. And so I think that there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, you shouldn't have to pay for education and you shouldn't do this and you should that. And it's true. You can learn everything on YouTube. You can take 2 years trying to hunt it all down yourself. You can try to, do it with no mentoring. And honestly, I was like that. I was pretty hard-headed. I bought $1,000 course, but I wasn't going to buy the mentoring. I wasn't going to plug into the groups. But once I did this and started to go down this road, I saw the value of it. And then when I got invited into this high-level mastermind, it was $35K. And at first I'm like, man, I'm not paying $35,000 to hang out with somebody. Like that is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I didn't, right? And for a while, but as I grew and as I applied the knowledge and saw really the high level people, a lot of it is pay to play. I don't want to say, I hate to say it's that way, but it just is. And when that opportunity came, I was ready. And that opportunity put pressure on me, right? Because I told my wife, babe, I'm spending $35,000 on this like group. And she was like, no, you're not.
Naysayers, man, dream killers, all of them.
But she knows that I'm serious. And so, after we talked a little bit, she's like, okay, whatever, but I'm getting a new kitchen remodel, which we're now actually having to do. But you got to pay the piper at some point. But so I do this, but when I wired in that money, it was like, I'm making this money back. I'm making this money back times 10. And I did. I mean, the guy that helped me build my first $1 million education into what it was in that group. Mark Evans, who's the mentor in there, was absolutely worth the value, the connections. I mean, he told me one thing, literally one thing, and I made 10x the investment in 2022. So it's just kind of like applied knowledge is power. And when you start to get serious about investing in yourself, and that's the last thing we usually will invest in, right? We'll spend money on cars and people and presents and buying crap. But when it comes to like, let me invest in myself, and it can be on a small level. It's like, are you buying a book? Are you too scared to spend $20? Are you subscribing to a podcast? Is there some YouTuber with a Patreon for $15 a month and you can get inside access to that guy and you're too cheap? Not too cheap, but you won't invest $15 a month into yourself. That's really what it is it's a reflection on what you think you're worth. And most people, I think, know that they're not going to do anything with information. so they don't do it, right?
Yeah. And that's when I talk about the filtration process too. I had, like I said, I like helping people too, man. I'll sit down and help you, but if I at any point sniff out you're not willing to help yourself, I'm out. And the quickest way I started doing is I had a hard book copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad that I pass around. And it's since not come back to me. And I hope that the person who had it read it and just forgot to give it back to me. But I had people sign it. It was like a log. It was like 10 people. And some that I gave it to, but not all 10 people. I would like sign it to them, kind of like a dang library, give it to them, they give it back. Some people read it. There's been 2 people in my life that actually read it, got back to me within like a couple of weeks and sat down and had conversations. Yep, there it is right there. But had conversations with me about it. One of them manages all my properties and does all my short-term rental stuff. The other one is my partner, Brandon Magarowski, and he is also the CEO of my baseball company that we started together. And like, those are the 2 people that really got back to me and was like, this book is great. What else do you have? Here's kind of what I learned. Let's discuss the cash flow quadrant. Like, and that was the key component that I said, okay, these people are investing in themselves. It's worth my time to have any discussion that they want. They're not just leeching my time from me. So now I have like a free electronic copy that if somebody hits me up, the first thing it is, I'll ask them, have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? No. Here's a copy. Get back to me when you've read it and we'll have a discussion. And that like filters out so many people who are never, they're like, what? I got to read like a book for a week to be able to talk to you. It's like, yes, we have to have a baseline that we can go from. And that is how that book explains, as rudimentary it is now, everybody knows about it. That explains how to view money, not how to make money, how to view it and how to look at opportunities. And if I've got to explain all of that to you, we're too far apart on me being able to help you, right? Like the concepts that I'm going to discuss with you are things you're not even going to be able to grasp because you don't know what part of the quadrant you're even in or what you're trying to do. So that's kind of been my filtration. And it's worked out great. It's brought some people into my life. And if they say, yeah, I have read Rich Sword Poet, have you read the one thing? I'll keep going until I find a book they haven't read. and then I'll give them one just to see. And it's come back to me a couple of times. But those couple of people that it has come back to me, it's always worked out because they have actually put in the time, read it, understood it, and more than just understanding the concepts of that book, it shows that they're willing to put in some time and effort to themselves and then come back and we'll have a conversation. So I understand what you're saying completely.
And picking the right people to associate with is so huge. I mean, like I had seen Yaden come home from being on the mission field for 2 years and build a business in affiliate marketing, selling like health food shakes and health food, like weight loss and stuff, and make like a living, support his family off of that. Then he quit that, became a realtor, support his family, like build a whole career in that, support his family, then started his own brokerage. And I'm thinking, this guy's got what it takes. Like he's got grit, he's got perseverance. If I get him in the right vehicle and I get myself in the right vehicle, we're gonna do something big because the vehicle really matters. If I'm in the sport fisher and you're in the rowboat, I don't care how hard you row and how hard you work and how smart you are, you're never going faster than me because I'm in the right vehicle. And that's where so many people, they get in these career paths and they get stuck in this routine of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And they get really good at it. And yet it doesn't really pay off. And you and me, like as we're in multifamily, we buy properties from people that are running these things horribly. They're nowhere near the best in the world at running these properties, and they're still making money, and they're still turning a profit. So multifamily, you don't have to be that good, to make money. And I was like, I like that. I like the scale of it. I like the vehicle. You're leveraging debt. You can leverage other people's money to do it. I mean, it checked all the boxes of scalability.
Well, speaking of vehicles, I was going to bring it up. You got that Ferrari hat on, right? I remember the post when you said, all right, guys, I'm about to make a stupid purchase. It's a dumb decision, but I'm going to do it. And I I have to say it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something for you to be able to buy that Ferrari. But was that kind of what you just said about being in the right vehicle? Was that kind of a I don't know, like an analogy for your life or whatnot? What led you to buy that vehicle? And like you're a regular guy like you and I, but it had to have been a goal that you set, and you were like, I don't care what it takes, I'm going to achieve it. Tell me about that.
For sure, yeah. Because it definitely was a growth thing. There are a couple parts. I mean, one, I wanted it, right? Like 4 or 5 years ago, I've been looking at it. I bought this little course called Exotic Car Hacks. It's like $150 or $300. I don't remember how much it is, but it's a little videos on Facebook, and you join this private Facebook group, and you learn how to buy exotic cars without losing money, right? You can buy them, own them for 6 months or a year, sell them, and exit at the same price. So that was super intriguing to me. But I also thought, well, you still got to have the down payment. You got to qualify for this big loan. You got to, like, what if you blow a clutch and that's 20 grand? Like, I don't need to be thinking that way. So I put the dream on the back burner. And then as things got going with real estate, and I realized, okay, this is a lot more affordable for me now. I still wasn't pulling the trigger on it. And so some of the guys in my circles were, starting to give me a hard time about it when they found out that this was kind of something that I wanted.
Hmm.
And they made me break down logically, like, okay, how much would it be? How much would it be a month? This and this. Can you afford that? It's like, yes, absolutely. Well, then why aren't you doing it? And once I isolated that it wasn't really the money anymore, it was more like, man, what are my friends going to think about me? Like, what are the people on Facebook going to think about me? What's my dad going to say? Like, seriously, what's my dad going to say?
Hey, asshole, why are you rolling around in a Ferrari? Yeah, I know.
And so,
well, what got you through that?
well, when you start to isolate that, you start to realize, wow, I'm actually not doing something that I want to do because I'm afraid, right? Because I'm afraid of what other people are going to think about me. And I can't control what other people think about me. I can't control that. And I'm not going to live my life by that. And, Grant Cardone has a line: it doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage. And the more courageous I've become in every aspect of my life, the more successful we've been, right? It takes courage to put your hand up and say, I'm going to buy multifamily. It takes courage to say, hey, will you give me money for a deal? It takes courage to call the broker when you don't totally know what to say, and yet you do it anyways. It takes courage to start a Facebook group. It takes courage to start a podcast when you think no one's going to listen to you. And it takes courage to go through these, but with the people that are willing to walk through that emotional uncertainty, those are the ones that win. And that was the biggest reason why I bought that Ferrari. Was I wanted to see how it would feel. And when that thing, when I found the car and when I wired in the money and I signed the loan and I got all that done, that really wasn't it. When they dropped it in my driveway and I owned it for the first week, that was when it got real. Like when people are like, why'd you do that? Why'd you buy a Ferrari? Like, what are you doing? But I would say 95% of people were like, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. That, and it really wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be. But there were definitely some people that were like, who do you think you are? What are you doing? This is the height of arrogance, blah, 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 blah. And going through that where it's like, you know what? I don't care, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to do this. I feel like I can safely afford to do this, something that I kind of dreamed about. So I'm going to do it. And I think it's, good in other aspects too, right? Other people, it gives instant credibility too. It's like, whether it's real or not, right? Because you see somebody in a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're like, oh, he's wealthy. Well, no, I'm actually less wealthy with the Ferrari than I was without the Ferrari. But it gives this perception. And so you're going to get in different conversations and you're going to meet different people and you're going to be rolling in a little bit different circles. And also on social media, like, it is what it is. People pay attention to that it kind of is social proof of success, whether it's real or imagined. It is what it is. And so um, I'm building a brand online. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Like I'm building a brand. I want the people that are following me in the deal room to know, hey, what this guy is doing works. What this guy is teaching us, he's implementing, and he's been successful with it. So those were kind of the couple of reasons. The biggest reason was to walk through that emotional, uncomfortable weirdness and come through the other side. Now I don't care. It's a car. Like it doesn't phase me at all. And that's where I wanted to be. And I know it's going to lead me to the next iteration.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think I have some of those the same concerns with me, especially being I'm in the Navy Special Operations, and like the guys that I hang out with, we're all government employees. We all know what each other gets paid. And I've been investing in real estate since 2015, and entrepreneurial with like my side hustle and stuff, but I always kept it to myself because I didn't want other guys like I got to go to work with these dudes, and I wouldn't put anything out there on the internet about what I was doing on the side, just because I don't know if it was because when I grew up, my parents were like, you don't talk about finances or religion at the table, or anytime someone asks you what you make, you don't talk about it, which is, it's a rude question to ask. But when I'm in the military, everybody knows what I make in the military. It's like public information. It's disclosed what government employees make. But the guys that I work with, like if you get a haircut, which we're mandated to get haircuts in the Navy, the day you get a haircut, you get picked on by everybody. It's like, dude, I have to get a haircut. And they're like, oh yeah, look at Joe Navy over here. It's constant. You can't do anything without expect, and it's funny for a group of men whose appearances look like they care so little about what other people think. The moment they make a change, everybody cares. You know what I mean? It's like you almost care so much about what people are going to say that you try not to. It's the exact opposite. But my point is, like, I wouldn't put anything on social media about, hey, I'm like raising money for deals, like, hey, I'm involved in real estate, or hey, follow me, because it just seemed so superficial. Follow me. Like I kind of, who says follow me, right? Like leaders get followed because they're good leaders. They don't ask for it. But the moment I kind of got through that and said, you know what, I'm 4 years from retiring. I'm going to step out into real estate. I got to start now. So when I retire from the Navy, when the Navy offers me my retirement bonus, they do that. Like right when you getting ready to get out, they'll say, we'll give you a big chunk of money to stay in. And my kind of thesis was, I want that amount that they offer me to be laughable at 20 years. When I'm able to retire, I want to be able to laugh at what they're offering me for my time. And I knew I had to start putting my name out there. So I started podcasts, partnered with people, started a brand. And once I started putting my name out there and kind of getting over some of those fears, what I realized, nobody really cared. And I think there was a guy on TikTok that I watched, and he's like a funny little dude, but he's like, anytime you're worried about what everybody's thinking of you, they're not thinking of you. They're thinking of themselves. So don't worry about it. And I was like, that's true. Like, I don't ever sit around and think about what I worry about other people. You know what I mean? It's just, I worry about the stuff I got going on. And that little TikTok video like got me to get started and get going and put my name out there. Like, people have brought me real estate opportunities that they would have never known to bring me, that had kept keeping it to myself. And that's where I wouldn't call my growth hockey stick growth, but it definitely changed the trajectory of what my opportunities were, from doing everything myself to now being involved in larger deals, partnering people, having a group, having, all the systems that it takes multiple people to put into place have kind of fallen into place just because I told other people this is what I wanted to do. And then now when you tell people this is what you want, like if you said, I want to buy a Ferrari, people would have been, okay, you want to buy a Ferrari. And then when you do it, they're like, oh shit, this dude wasn't kidding. He said he wanted to do it and he did it. On the flip side of that, when I tell people what I want to do, I feel accountable to just putting it out there. Hey, I want to raise money for multifamily. And if that's the end of it, people are going to be like, you don't do what you say you're going to do. You know what I mean? So it has helped me, exactly what you're saying. It has helped me. I don't know, maybe I need to go pick out my dream car and go get it. I don't know what it is, but I need to look at what you're talking about, because financially I can afford to do a lot of things I want to do. I almost feel like responsible to not do them, if that makes sense, because I should be putting that into investments. But it seems like for you, like the mindset shift of, no, I need to do what it is that I want to do to keep me motivated, to keep doing the things I got to do. Right. And that's probably some things I need to reflect on myself about, because, there's truth in it. There really is.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, people don't like change. I mean, even the saying "you've changed" is a negative thing.
Yeah.
And why? Right? I mean, so many they want they want you to stay where you are, right? And when someone sees significant change in your life, it's kind of it's a dawning of mourning for them, right? Because they're seeing, wow, this person's moving on, right? They're moving beyond me. They're not going to be here in the military after 20 years. They're going to be moving forward, and I'm going to be here. Or we're in the same circles, going on the same levels of vacation, driving the same types of cars, the same social strata. They're going to be losing you, and they don't like that, right? And it also is kind of a judgment on the lack of action that they may or may not be taking in their life. That's one thing. I mean, another thing is, yeah, they're not thinking about you too often at all, if any. And then recognizing that someone that's more successful than you is never going to criticize you, right? I look
Yeah.
at, somebody that has a Ferrari and you want to get a Ferrari, or you get a Ferrari, they're never going to say, "Oh, dude, what are you doing? Like, you poser. What are you trying to, like, impress somebody?" I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. What model did you get? Why'd you get it? Cool. I love it." They're going to be encouraging. And it's sort of, when you're moving forward in real estate or whatever you're trying to do, it reveals people, right? The people that are cheering for you, people that are proud of you, the people that are awesome, and then the people that they're worried about you. They're concerned, you're going a little too fast. Like, just be careful. I mean, that's just sort of a veiled judgment on themselves, I think,
Yeah. They're
and
talking to
revealing
themselves.
their mindset level. So yeah, it's really encouraging human nature, but it's more, we're fighting a battle with ourselves more than anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And that's that borrowed confidence concept I mean, it's something that a lot of us do already, but whenever somebody actually put words to it and you think about it, it's like, I do that. Like, the moment I see somebody else who looks just like me, like, and I appreciate the videos that you and Yeaton put out, like the content, because there was a video of you like in an RV with like a couple kids rolling around in the back. Literally, I have like I call it the vantion, but like a camper, and my kids roll around the back of that thing. I'm like, this dude this guy is me on the other side of the country doing the same things that I'm trying to do. It personalizes it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I don't relate very well to Grant Cardone, right? That's not it's like he's got helicopters and jets, and yes, those are goals, but like, it doesn't seem like a reachable person. It seems too far. It's almost like people who invest in Grant Cardone. This is not a knock on anybody who invests with Grant Cardone, but his customer is the person who's never actually going to be a real estate investor. They're just going to invest in his fund and get the benefits from it. And it's, to me, that's because it's so disconnected. Like, I can never do what that guy's doing. Look at all this. He's everywhere, right? Whereas you see other guys who are doing the thing that you're likely able, this is attainable stuff. It makes it just a lot easier to grasp and to get started, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I see it.
And I think
I like y'all's group a lot.
when you focus on who you're trying to help, it helps you to overcome some of those insecurities, right? Where somebody's watching you, Ramsey, somebody that wants to have their own podcast or wants to close their first real estate deal, maybe somebody that's in the military, and they're seeing your example. And when you're sharing your story, they're borrowing belief from what you're doing. They're borrowing confidence from what you're doing. And that is important, right? That's more important than, I feel a little weird putting this out there. Because Yaden and I built the Facebook group and we were willing to put ourselves out there and be criticized and have certain people not like us or whatever we're doing, we've also helped a whole lot of people and made a lot of friends and made a lot of connections and had a whole lot of fun doing it. And that's where I think, when you keep the focus on who you're going to be able to help and the impact, because our lives are a ripple, and everything you do matters, and the impact you're going to have matters. Your podcast matters. everybody that you help and talk to and refer the Rich Dad Poor Dad book to, it matters. And that's what keeps it in perspective.
And you guys do your meetups too out in South Carolina. Is it outside of Charleston, somewhere pretty close to
Yeah,
Charleston?
Somerville.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I see you guys invite, put it out to the deal room. I don't know if you put it out to the my first
Yeah,
million
we do.
multifamily. Yeah, but you guys got pretty good turnout, and it looks a lot more intimate and custom and fun, and more about building relationships than it is about like any type of training or whatever. Because everybody levitates to the seminars or the conferences where you're in a room and you're just listening to somebody speak and you're drinking from a fire hose. I have not been to one of y'all's meetups just because on the other side of the country, but I'd really like to go. But it seems like there are people hanging out and just discussing concepts, sharing successes and failures, having real conversations and actually meeting and networking versus let's just go sit in this room with 200 people, make all of these fake introduction. Like, if you meet 30 people at a conference, like maybe one of those people you actually follow up with, or maybe two, I don't know, or you throw them in your spam folder or whatever it is. It's not an actual lasting relationship. It's just some person that you met and now you're aware of. But I do want to make it to y'all's meetups because I like that you go out on a yacht, like you have drinks, smoking cigars, like that's shit that everybody likes to do, and you're actually building relationships with people. That after this, we'll talk about doing deals together. But right now, let's just hang out, like get to know each other. That's the kind of stuff that I like, man.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I got to credit Yaden for that. He's kind of pushes me a little bit more. I'm a little bit more introverted, but he organized this, and yeah, it was just a meetup at a little bar brewery place, and people came in the night before. They had a coffee meetup in the coffee shop that was connected to the brewery the morning of. There was, I think, 150, maybe more people at the free meetup, and then we did a yacht event the next day with about 20 people, 18 people, I think, and no, sorry, 12 on the yacht. And yeah, that was an addition, that was money, but sort of like it's that barrier to entry, right? If you want to be on the yacht for the day connecting with the people that are more serious, like that's going to be 3K, but these people have 3K to throw down to make relationships, so they're going to be a little bit maybe further along with their business progress. And so the conversations that they're having are different. And even the conversations at the meetup are different than the conversations in the big 23,000 person Facebook group, right? Because they made the commitment to come to the event and hang out and talk. And so it's just it's really, really fun. And that was another reason why we sprung for the boat, because we knew it would facilitate that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a good time, and that's where deals happen, because it's like people, they need to trust each other, they need to get to know each other. It isn't always, or it isn't about the numbers, it's about the relationship.
Yeah. People ask me all the time, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? The deal or the money for the deal. And my answer is always relationships come first, right? Like before the chicken or the egg, a relationship of some sort had to happen for it to come, right? And that's once me and my team started to focus on building relationships, deals started coming in. It was relationships with brokers, relationship with lenders, relationships with other general partners, relationships with people who own real estate looking to buy it and potentially selling it one day. Instead of focusing on, I'm going to talk to you because you have money and you might want to invest in me, is like, I'm going to talk to you because you're a person and build a relationship. And oh, by the way, this is who I am and what I do. And usually, like, no one likes to be sold on anything, but everybody likes to have relationships, right? Whether you're introvert or extrovert, people like relationships. It might be a bigger barrier to create them with somebody that's not as outgoing, but the once the relationship is there, you're the person that they think about when an opportunity comes up. You're their go-to, right? So, I I can resonate with that. But Jennings, what we're going to do now is move into the three questions that I ask every guest. And the first question is, what has been your biggest success? Like, what's been your biggest moment in real estate? Your pivotal point. It can be a specific deal, it can be a specific thought, a specific action that you took. But what would you say has contributed to your success the most in the world of real estate?
So I would say, I mean, the biggest linchpin would probably be that 64 unit that we closed. Because I say that because we had closed a 12 unit, we closed an 18 unit. They were both, one was 750 grand, one was 250. They were both decent deals, but not like big time multifamily. And this was big purchase, needed $1 million renovation, and we were able to get it closed, get the loan, raise the money, take it full circle. We renovated probably 45 out of those 63 units. We got the rent roll up, we got it reappraised, we refinanced it, we got all the investor money back out. Now I own a decent amount of that building, and I'm not beholden to the investor anymore or investors on it. And so to take one full cycle, I would say I'm pretty proud of that. That's not our biggest deal by far, but that was our first kind of like, the stakes are high, right? You're doing a multi-million-dollar deal. This is something that you better be on your game, and you better know what you're doing, and you better perform. But I liked that, right? I liked the challenge of that. And so that would be, I would say, would be my biggest um thing that I'm proud of at this point. Because anybody can close a deal. Well, not anybody can close a deal, but it's operating it, running it, renovating it, and refinancing it, taking it full cycle is a lot more difficult than just closing it. And um Biggest failure, or you didn't ask me that yet. But
Hey, my next question, Jennings, would be what is your biggest failure in real estate?
I'm reading your mind here.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I would say I could have gone a lot faster and a lot further, a lot sooner, if I had been a little bit more humble, willing to invest in myself and learn from other people instead of being so hard headed. Like, I've gotta do all this my on my own. Um, like I said, it was 2 years from when I bought an education course to when I actually closed my first deal. And that was because I didn't build any relationships. I didn't connect with any mentors. I didn't plug into any communities or do anything like that. I did the work, but if I had been a little bit wiser, I think I could have done the right type of work, and I could have gotten where I wanted to go a lot faster. But I'm still grateful that we got where we got. But that would be my biggest regret or challenge. Is I mean, I really wasted probably a year and a half, because I wanted to do it on my own and didn't want a partner, and I didn't want a mentor, and I didn't want to pay for anything more than I had to. I was just kind of a cheap ass.
Honestly, you'd be surprised at how many people give that same exact response. It's never like, and it's funny as investors, like you kind of understand the risk involved with investing, and it's usually not, the answer is usually not, oh, I bought this one deal and it turned out to be a horrible deal and I lost my butt, blah blah. It's typically, I didn't do more. They doubted themselves early on, or they didn't figure out they didn't put enough time to figure out the formula. That's my biggest regret. Like, as per deals, investing in Shreveport, Louisiana was my biggest mistake, but it wasn't a failure, right? It was the difference between a mistake and a failure is one is you refuse to learn from. And so like a failure, maybe that's a bad question. It's the biggest failure. What was your biggest mistake? Because for me, it was like just trying to do everything myself, just like you. And most investors, they understand the tuition, right? Like if you go to get a W-2 job that requires a degree, you're going to pay a tuition to get that degree. You're going to have to invest that money so that people coach you and people teach you and you get a certified education from it so that you can go and say, look, this doesn't mean I know everything about your business, but it shows that I know how to learn. Well, in the world of real estate, there's not like a master's degree in real estate investing. There's not so the tuition is kind of on the job training, the mistakes that you make and learn from. And one of the mistakes that I've made some investing mistakes, but I've made some mindset mistakes. And the investing mistakes, when you lose money or you don't make as much money because of opportunity costs, I just have to chalk those up to what was my tuition and what did I learn from paying that tuition? Like I invested in Shreveport, Louisiana in multifamily, horrible multifamily market. My tuition was I need to learn how to understand. I need to learn how to read markets. So then I went to a course about how to read markets, probably a $5,000 to $6,000 tuition. That's like a semester, right? So that's like a third of a semester. So investing in yourself, look at it as like, I'm going to college. I might lose. Now, when you're dealing with other people's money, the tuition gets pretty big because people are betting on you. So you don't want to be, rolling the dice on other people's investments. But that's a lot of us go through. I'm going to deal with my own money first, the learning process. And then once I get educated enough, I'll start, taking on other investors. But I definitely, like most people say, they didn't get started soon enough or didn't do enough soon enough or doubted themselves too early on in the process. And I think that's okay too, right? That's what most people go through is how am I going to solve these problems? But a lot of people say the answer. So, all right, the last and final question before we wrap this up: what really bruises your bananas in the world of real estate? Like what information is out there that you just disagree with? What concepts are out there that you don't go along with? Or there's your opportunity to be a bit disruptive and go against the grain. So what bruises your bananas, Jennings? Get the bananas bruised, baby.
You know, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups too, pertaining to multifamily and investing, and I just see so much bad advice, right? I see so many people speaking so authoritatively in scenarios, giving advice in certain situations, and I know, man, that person cannot have a portfolio. That person must not know what they're talking about. And yet, the internet affords everybody can be an expert, and you don't know who has what or what qualifications that they have. And so I don't like it when I see that. And one of the limiting beliefs that I see in people that are starting to get started, or maybe don't ever even get started, is they think I can't do that because I don't have $1 million, right? I can't do that because I can't qualify for a loan. I can't do that because I don't have the experience or whatever it is. And so there's this mindset that you have to do it all yourself. And so once you understand, I can raise capital, I don't have to have all the capital that's for my own. I don't necessarily have to have any capital. Like, I don't have to be the loan sponsor. Maybe I can't qualify for this loan, but I can find somebody or connect somebody or have a relationship with somebody that can. Maybe you can't find deals. Maybe you don't have to find deals. I started connecting with people that could find deals. That was sort of my niche that I went down. And there's just this overarching belief in real estate circles, and it might be just like a self-reliance thing, that you got to do it all yourself. If you don't have the $1 million, you can't qualify for the loan and you can't find the deal, then you ain't doing a multifamily deal. And that's just not true. And so I think people sit on the sidelines for way too long, and then they scrape together 150 grand, and then they buy something that's crap, and they don't really, because they didn't put in the work to educate themselves. So that would be the biggest thing that I see as far as in the industry, is people believing that they've got to do it all, not seeking out those relationships and the teamwork to close these bigger deals.
Awesome, man. Well, Jennings, I appreciate your time. We're at about an hour now, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Before we do so, I want to give you an opportunity to plug anything that you want to plug, your Facebook group. How do people get a hold to you? What's some good resources that they can find out more about you, brother?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would love to have anybody and everybody in my first million in multifamily Facebook group. I also have a podcast, Unlock Your Life, where I just talk about, it's a little bit more broad, not necessarily just multifamily focused, but opportunity focused, investing focused, relationships. And if you're looking for mentoring, coaching. Love to see you in the deal room with, me, Ramsey, about 350 people in there that are serious about closing deals, investing in themselves. And we just started a accountability sprint. So, it's a really good environment. People don't need another. I mean, I have a course, and if you don't know anything about multifamily, course is a great place to start, but it's not enough. You need relationships, you need accountability, you need social pressure. And that's what I feel like the deal room brings. And that's why we've had such a good response to it. It's because people want to build connection and make things happen. And just more information isn't the answer.
I agree. All right, Jennings, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. And I hope you consider me part of your network. And all of my listeners, reach out to Jennings, join that Facebook group. It's definitely I'm part of it. And the deal room is worth a subscription as well. Appreciate it.
You, Ramsey. Thank you,
brother.
man.
Thanks for listening to the Gorilla State Investing Podcast, where we give you the ground-pounding truth about what it takes to be successful in real estate. Learn more at realfocus.org/Gorilla State Pod.